Tensions in Israel's northern border are heating up. The threat of a dangerous escalation is real, but the IDF is prepared for any scenario, even for the heavy snow that fell on Mount Hermon. This is the 118th day in the Hamas-Israel war, and I'm Yair Pinto, reporting to you from Jerusalem. During a normal year without a war, the Israeli news portals in January and February will be full of headlines about the snow, rain, and generally cold, wet, stormy winter weather. But sadly, in the opening months of 2024, we are preoccupied with much less cheerful topics. That would be the growing possibility of a large war in the northern border and the readiness of the IDF to fight such a war. The weather is part of this story, however, as we need to think about how we will fight in this harsh winter weather. Of course, the other side is also facing this question, and that's also something we need to consider. It might be better for us to fight them in the winter if we're better prepared and equipped for it than they are, and vice versa. You may have heard that the terrain and conditions in northern Israel in the winter are difficult, including heavy rains, snow, fog, and extreme cold. There are advantages and disadvantages to these conditions for both sides, including the fact that it's difficult to see far in such conditions without special equipment. The IDF has these special equipments, but Hezbollah and the other Iranian-backed militias we're facing probably do not have these equipments. Other things we have that they might not have include vehicles designed to operate in the cold, winter clothing, and many other things. In short, the IDF is equipped and very well prepared to operate in this weather, but the enemy forces are much less so. That doesn't mean that it will be easy, but it does mean we'll have some important advantages in this war. Training and preparations have been ongoing for 4 months, led by the soldiers of the Reserve Paratrooper Brigade, who are on standby in northern Israel. This reserve unit has an impressive attendance of over 140%, meaning many men who were not even called to come showed up anyway to volunteer to the IDF. Do you understand how much Israelis love their country? I personally saw many soldiers that left their families in Europe or the United States and came to the military and volunteered with our units in the northern border in the first 2 months of this war. It's just amazing. Last week, following training maneuvers that are simulating an advance from the defense line towards the enemy in southern Lebanon and destroying his capabilities, they held another readiness exercise in the Golan Heights. The reserve fighters did a terrain and climate analysis and built a detailed plan of attack based on how they assessed the enemy will behave in a real combat situation. One of the fighters said, "We practiced warfare in cooperation with tanks, and that was the most significant thing to me." Along with the weather, another important factor that could be very crucial in whatever comes next is the terrain. This is a mountainous area filled with vegetations and forests. It is very different than the mostly flat desert sands of southern Israel and the Gaza Strip. At the beginning of this war, I was stationed in the northern part of Israel for more than a month, and I remember one specific incident from one of the training exercises. We were out in the field one day when it began to rain. Our uniforms were quickly soaked through, and it got very uncomfortable for everyone. But I remember how my fellow soldiers and I carried on as usual, laughing at those socks that got wetter and smiling as if they were on their way home and not in the middle of the field, exercising, carrying tens of kilograms of equipment on our backs. Many times during this war, I have asked myself how we still have so much motivation even under such difficult conditions, and especially after so much time. After all, we are not 18-year-olds recruit soldiers anymore. We are what those 18-year-olds called old men, and we all have homes, careers, relationships, children that we rather be attending to instead of tramping around in the rain with backpacks filled with gear, eating army food, mainly tuna, and maybe getting shot by the enemy on top of everything else. But one of my comrades spoke for all of us when he gave us an answer to this question by declaring that there is no choice because the country is the home of all of us and we are at war for our home. That might sound like a corny line for an old John Wayne movie, but when you're in action in the depths of the terrain, you realize that this is not a cliché. This is the reality. This statement came from the bottom of my friend's heart as we were all shivering in the freezing cold, and it sparked a fire in all of our bellies that warmed us up and helped us stay focused. I don't forget what he said, and I hope you don't either. We're all going to need the courage that these words inspire in order to go forward. More than 500 buildings in Israel have already been damaged by Hezbollah fire since the outbreak of the war, including homes in civilian communities close to the border with Lebanon. Most of the damage was light and can be repaired, but some were irreparably destroyed. There have also been fatalities among IDF soldiers that are stationed along the border, as well as a few civilians. In the last week, there has been an increase in Hezbollah's use of heavy missiles such as the Burkan and Flak. To give you an idea of how powerful these weapons are, last Saturday, the village of Shlomi in the Western Galilee was hit by a Burkan missile, damaging over 50 structures. Hezbollah has many more of these missiles. They can fire them at Israel. Earlier today, the Israeli Air Force attacked a terrorist infrastructure and military buildings used by Hezbollah in the villages of Ita el-Shayeb, Bet Laif, and Baida, located in southern Lebanon. A number of launches from Lebanese territory towards the Metula area in Israel were identified, and the IDF directed fire at the sources of the shootings. As I said before, the volume of rockets and missiles fired into Israel from Lebanon is increasing, and no one knows how long the border battle can last before the gloves come off. Diplomats are trying, so far without success, to mediate a ceasefire based on Hezbollah's withdrawal from the border with Israel. But Hezbollah has vowed to continue fire missiles at Israel as long as Israeli forces are fighting in the Gaza Strip against Hamas, and Israel isn't going to stop fighting Hamas until the threat it poses to Israel has been eliminated. That means the gloves will probably have to be taken off very soon. Please join me in praying urgently for this situation. As I said before, the IDF is ready for a battle with Hezbollah, and there is no doubt we will win. But the Israeli home front will surely come under intense rocket fire for at least the first few days of such a conflict. This will be difficult for Israel, and we're going to need a lot of prayer and support from our friends to get through it. Switching focus to the Gaza Strip, the fighters of Division 162 continue fighting in the north and center of the Gaza Strip and operate in the center of Gaza City. Every day they report of eliminating several Hamas terrorists. In the center of the Gaza Strip, the fighters of the Nahal combat team are operating. They too report of making steady progress in taking terrorists off the battlefields, including a growing number who have surrendered. In the north of the Gaza Strip, the fighters of the 401st Brigade combat team and the 98th Division are hard at work hitting Hamas positions one by one, as the paratrooper brigade and the 646th Brigade combat team does the same in the western neighborhoods of Khan Yunis. Dear viewers, as I hope you can see from today's report, the state of Israel is facing tremendous pressure and we need your help. Please continue to spread the truth by sharing these videos and follow us on social media. Please also continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the peace of Israel, and pray for the safety of the IDF soldiers. Don't forget to also pray for the Israeli home front, for the families of all these IDF soldiers that are staying at home worried that their loved ones will not return. Your support and your prayers mean the world to us. Only yesterday evening, I had the privilege of meeting with a few Christian leaders who came to Israel in a show of solidarity with the people of Israel. They visited the Gaza community that was hit by Hamas terrorists, and they shared their love and support to me, to the IDF, and to the whole country of Israel. You have no idea how these acts makes us feel. And you guys are doing the same by helping us, by praying for us, and by sharing these videos with the rest of the world. So thank you so much. And we have people that are praying for us from all across the world. And that's what God is telling us to be. One big united family. So thank you, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.